Ladies, it's so good to see you. This is our inaugural Brooklyn Savvy Live. So just in talking to people, I thought that perhaps it would be a great idea to actually talk about what this COVID has done to us, so to speak, meaning what's been I call it coping with COVID because what's been our experience. And this is such a unique, for lack of a better word, unique yet tragic experience that I would hate to see us not learn what the value of this experience is to bring to us. I deeply feel that this is about transformation on a number of levels. And I feel it's about spiritual transformation on the planet. And that's where I get my strength to really go through this. But that being said, this is what we're going to be talking about, how we're coping with it, how it's changing us, how we're thinking about it. But before we do that, let me introduce who is with us. We have Colette Ellis, we have Ellen Salpeter, Nomiki McCrillis, Phyllis White-Thorne, Lisa Bing, Denise Arpasu, Jennifer Jones-Austin, and our special guest today, Lisa White. Thank you, ladies, for joining. Thank you for lending your voices to just lift up the spirits of Brooklynites and then also of the nation, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to be light workers. I've been listening to YouTube and all that stuff, so workers. But be that as it may, we've got someone that we need to congratulate, and that is Jennifer Jones-Austin, as usual, because she's phenomenal. Jennifer, the work that you do is incredible because it is about lifting people up. That's what you do. And you have just been appointed to the Fair Recovery Task Force. Talk to us about what your new role is going to be.
So first, it's so good to see everybody and good to see everybody looking not just good, but like looking great, right?
Right.
Handling your business. COVID has nothing on you in that respect. And I want to thank you, Tony, for being so supportive of me. Tony is a member of the FPWA Board of Directors, FPWA, Federation of Protestant Welfare Agencies, which is the organization that I lead. And she's just a tremendous leader on the organization, on the organization's board. And so it's great to be able to contribute to Brooklyn Savvy in turn. I have been appointed to the Mayor's Fair Recovery Task Force. It is the task force that is charged with the mission of working with him to rebuild a better New York after COVID. So in the words of the mayor, everybody's thinking about what it looks like when we get back to normal. And as he said, we're not going back to normal because normal is not what it should be for all New Yorkers. What we've seen with respect to COVID is that it has impacted us all. We've all been challenged. We all struggle. But the experiences of lower income persons, persons of color, Black and brown in particular, and of immigrants is more challenging than it has been for the great majority of us. We're seeing that these persons have challenges when it comes to putting food on the table. And for Black and brown persons, they're not surviving COVID in the way that other people are. And by survival, I mean literally living. They're not surviving COVID in the way and in the numbers that others are when they become sick. And so the Fair Recovery Task Force is charged with the responsibility of looking at why that is the case and how do we rebuild and create what really is an equitable city? How do we look at jobs and wages, income, asset growth, opportunity? How do we look at health disparities? How do we look at environment? All of these factors that contribute to, one, social determinants of health, and two, what it means to really be self-sufficient and thriving in New York City. And so it's a tall order. It's a very big, but essentially it's setting vision for what it means for all New Yorkers to be thriving, and then what it takes for all sectors. Very often when we talk about people who struggle, we talk about government's response and we talk about the role of nonprofits. But the truth of the matter is that we're all in this. And everybody who's been living in New York City or across this country has been impacted when it comes to low income persons not being able to do what they do, right?
How are the wealthy business, very wealthy, uber rich business class involved in this?
This task force is comprised of 8 persons, and I'm extremely honored to be one of the 8 because it is a very distinguished group of people who have served New York in various capacities for, like me, for pretty much all of their adult lives. We have Dick Ravitch, who essentially helped bring the city out of bankruptcy back in the 1970s. We have Carl Weisbrod, who worked with the Dinkins administration to revamp 42nd Street and help rebuild New York City in many ways. I could go on and on. We don't have the time to really call out, the roles that other people have served, but we've got business leaders in different disciplines, in different fields. And the goal is to have everybody see, what is the role of real estate here? What is the role of entertainment, hospitality, tourism? What is the role of the food industry? What is the role of technology? What is the role of Wall Street in making sure that everybody has a seat at the table? What is the role of small business? And so the thinking is that it's not just government policies and programs. It's really, how does business, small and large, show up and see that, you got to think about benefits and wages, but you also have to think about who you're giving opportunity to, who's coming to the table, and who's a part of decision making.
But you see, what is the incentive? Meaning, I'm really afraid that we're going to go back to business as usual because we are at a point where capitalism, our economy, is really confronting our humanity. So that's the pressure. And I'm wondering, since so much of this is conditioned mindset and the way people think and the way the world used to be, how are we going to be able to get those who are wealthy and those who are developers to pivot towards affordable housing, when for the last 8 years they've been talking about how affordable housing is at some number that most of us can't afford?
Well, part of it is appreciating that what has happened is that we've seen that this city cannot function without essential workers. We just can't do it, right? All of us are dependent upon people who are stocking the shelves of the grocery stores, delivering our food to us, the people who are running and moving on transit right now, running the MTA. All of these people are critical. Everybody is essential and has a role to play. And so if we want to keep people healthy and well, then we need to dig in as a society and see that when any one link in the chain is compromised, we're all compromised. It even boils down to, just to be very, very simple and basic, people who are sitting around all of a sudden realizing, oh my goodness, I was on a chat where women were saying, I have to clean my own toilet right now.
See, I can't take hearing things like that right this second.
Right?
That is more than right.
If you want to clean, if you don't want to have to clean your own toilet, then maybe you need to start thinking about what it means to provide a living and fair wage to someone who does, so that they can afford themselves adequate quality health care, such that when these things come around, when challenges like this befall us, that they're not on the line the first to go, because you're going to need them.
Hey, Tony, I'm listening to this. What it also triggers for me is, for corporations, the major corporations need to make a fundamental shift in terms of priorities, and shifting that away from stockholders to employees to their employees. And that is a huge, huge shift.
Right.
And I'll also add small businesses. Right. This country has, we saw it just recently with the economic thing, where, the money, even big businesses got some of the small business loans, got 80% of the small business loans, because the way that the legislation was written, you could be a big company, right? You could be a publicly traded company, but if you had local stores that had less than 500 people, you could get economic stimulus money under the payment protection program. And so it's like delving in and looking at that and saying, how are we really supporting small businesses who are part of these economies, these local economies?
Or even looking at the fact that you had to have a banking relationship to even be able to access those dollars.
Right.
So again, we want to congratulate you. This particular episode is on coping with COVID. Lisa Bing, though, did you have one more thing you wanted to say? Because I don't want to cut you off, because you always have great things to say.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. I appreciate it. I lost the train of thought, so keep going.
Okay, no worries. Desiree is with us, and so is Maria De Longoria. Thank you, ladies. Okay, Denise, yes.
I just wanted to comment on the large corporations who were awarded, the PPP loans.
You mean like Shake
Most
Shack?
of them, yes. But what they stepped up and did the right thing, they ended up returning that money and prepaying those loans and putting it back into the pool so that small businesses could get it. I agree. They should not have done that in the first place. They shouldn't have applied for it.
But that's
they morally. But you know what? They morally did the right thing and returned it. And same thing with like a Harvard, because Harvard also was awarded a PPP loan.
But did they do that on their own accord, or did they do that after they were shamed into doing it?
That was my point.
Right,
good point.
I think a lot of them did do the right thing, morally, and returned it. But you know what? I think these are unprecedented times, and I think we have to take a look and perhaps be forgiving, and realize, yes, maybe there's a little bit of shame, but they did do the right thing in the end.
The whole forgiving piece, though, that, with the devastation that is going on right now, with the people that have lost their lives, we're getting close to 60,000 people who are dead.
Yes.
I'm not sure my sympathy goes there, though I understand. I understand, because that's how we are. That's how we're built in this country.
Yes.
We're opportunistic. Yeah, let me see if I can't get
we're
a little extra for
capitalistic
myself.
nation.
But that's what we need to change.
Yes.
Yeah, and
That's what we need to change.
The other thing, Tony, and I remember my point is that, the points that Jennifer and you were making earlier about corporations, they're making these policies and setting up systems that fundamentally leave the people out who need it the most, because they don't have the perspective and they don't have the right people at the table making these decisions. And they're not listening to people who have ideas and have experiences that are different from them. So these are fundamental, in my opinion. The other thing
that's the diversity argument. That's the equity and diversity argument right there.
But the other thing, hang on, Jennifer. The other thing that's important to raise around business wasn't always so skewed toward capitalism. There was a social responsibility that historically businesses had. So, and we've gotten away from that, other than largely just mouth service.
Right.
Well, we are a capitalist society, but
yes, I agree, Maria.
Only part of us was developed historically, right? Established to be a capitalist society. Historically, there was one part that was developed enterprise. There was one part that was supposed to be for this social utopia, right? And so we always say we're a capitalist society, and that's what we've turned into. That's not necessarily how the whole country started out.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, so we're getting ready to go deep into the weeds of capitalism. However, we're going to be talking about
out of that.
Right. We're going to be talking about how are we coping with this temporary new reality that we're in, and temporary, I'm saying with a big question, because we just don't know how temporary this is going to be.